I hope PPT is visible. Yes or no? Someone has to respond.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll first 10 to 15 minutes we'll do some simple problems that already similar type of problems are solved in mechanics of material. Then we'll go for case study question. So today we are discussing about problems on crystal structure and mechanical behavior, that is especially on stresses and strains. Now this is related to crystal structure. No, not related to crystal structure, it is related to stresses and strain. So we know the formula. One formula you have to remember is, just I am revising. We know that true stress is equal to the load divided by instantaneous cross section area. That you have to remember. I am putting the I. I refers to instantaneous cross section area. That is the one formula you have to remember. So then that is the only one formula. Then remaining is AI, that is the instantaneous cross section area. So instantaneous cross section area is nothing but, imagine you are applied around 20 kilonewton of load. If we have some arrangement to measure the instantaneous diameter of the specimen, so then it is referred to the instantaneous the cross section area. When you conducting a tensile test in material testing laboratory, you are not measuring the instantaneous the diameter. You are not calculating instantaneous cross section area. So we are measuring only the original cross section area throughout the your experiment. So you are using the original cross section area only for calculation of stresses and other cross section. That is for engineering stress or nominal stress. Most of your mechanics of material is based on your engineering stress or nominal stress. Why you have to go for engineering stress or nominal stress is up to elastic limit or plastic limit, where the change in diameter is very, very small. So that's why the original cross section area or instantaneous cross section is almost same. So when you apply the load, there is no much deformation at the initial stage. And the original cross section area is already measured, and up to elastic limit or up to proportional limit, you get straight line curve, stress strain diagram. So area true stress as well as the your engineering stress is almost same. We know the formula for true stress. The true stress is equal to force divided by instantaneous cross section area. Engineering stress is equal to again force divided by instantaneous cross section area. Because change in diameter at the initial stage is very, very small, or we can say that there is no much change in diameter. Hence, the instantaneous cross section area as well as the original cross section is same. Hence, the true stress as well as engineering stress up to proportional limit is almost same. Hence, most of your engineering design, you are going to study two more subjects similar to mechanics of material, the design of machine element 1, design of machine element 2. So there also you are using only the engineering stress, not the concept of true stress. But there is a one more subject, that is the theory of metal forming. It is a elective subject, or one application part of that you are doing forging operation, where metals undergo plastic deformation. When metals undergo plastic deformation, there is a huge change in diameter. Then we cannot there is a huge change in the original area as well as instantaneous cross-section area. In such cases, we require true stress. Those are the two formula you have to remember. That is, one is formula for what is instantaneous cross-section area and what is original cross-section area. Original cross-section area is nothing but area, the area calculated before application of the load. The instantaneous cross-section area is nothing but the load. You are applying load at any instant of time. When load is applied, so what is the cross-section area? It is nothing but instantaneous cross-section. If you know those two, so problems are very simple. I will not go in detail. So here they are given copper rod of initial diameter. Don't confuse between initial diameter and instantaneous diameter. The initial diameter is A0. Fractures at a load of 110 kg. That is nothing but a fracture load. Its ductility is 75% reduction in area. Calculate the true stress at fracture. We know what is the load at fracture. We require instantaneous cross-section area because from 2 mm is diameter is given. From the 2 mm diameter, we get only the original cross-section area. That's why they have calculated initial diameter is D0 is equal to 2 mm. Initial cross-section area it is referred as A0. From the A0, we got 3.14 mm square. That's the original cross-section area. Now they are given what is the percentage reduction in area. Percentage reduction in area is 75%. It is not A0. It is 75%. But to find out true stress at fracture, we know what is fracture load. That is 110 kg. That you have to convert it to Newton. Then we require what is the area of cross section when the specimen fractures. And we know the formula. That the same formula is given, P divided by AI. AI is the instantaneous cross section area. But we know what is the we know percentage reduction in area. Percentage reduction in area is nothing but A0 minus AI divided by A0. Change in cross section divided by the original cross section, that gives the percentage change in area. That is given 75%. 75% is nothing but 0.75, or we can multiply this 100. We can take it as 75%. Whatever it may be. The A0 minus AI refer to change in area, cross section area, divided by A0. That gives the percentage reduction in area is 75%. It is nothing but 0.75. From that we can get the AI value. AI value we are getting the AI value. From that we will get AI value. Where AI value we are getting around 0.785. I think from this we don't get D. There may be a mistake here. From this we will get AI. So once we have the AI value, we know that true stress is equal to 4 divided by AI. That is instantaneous cross section area. The instantaneous cross section area is already we have found out, that is 0.785. So from that we can get the true stress. In general, you have to remember true stress is the force divided by instantaneous cross section area. Engineering stress is the force divided by original cross section area. And change in cross section area it is given, that is A0 minus AI. If you know those, this is already in Panish textbook, already has circulated, material is circulated. We can refer. I will not go. Then one more is, it is related to crystal structure. So aluminum is given, material is aluminum, but at least remember crystal structure or lattice structure for the aluminum, copper, the aluminum as well as the steel. The aluminum is made up of FCC structure, but sometimes they may give FCC or sometimes they may not give. In such cases, you have to remember aluminum has FCC structure. And the atomic radius is given, that is 0.147 nanometer. Calculate volume of its unit cell in cubic meter. Atomic radius is given, the aluminum is FCC structure, atomic radius is R is equal to 0.143 nanometer. So what is the volume of the unit cell? It is FCC is the face centered cubic lattice. It is a cube. So area of the cube is equal to a cube, because lattice parameter or width or height or width or length of the cube all are same. It is a cube, a into a, but we required a. For the FCC structure, there is a relationship between the lattice parameter a and the atomic radius r. That relation we are going to derive in the Friday class, this coming next class you are going to derive, but for timing you have to remember a is equal to 4r divided by root 2. R refer to atomic radius, a is the lattice parameter, r size of the cube, that is 4r divided by root 2. So finally you get 0.404 nanometer. So we know what is the size of the cube. The size of the cube or edge length of the cube is a. A is given. Then what you have to find out? The volume of the unit cell, it is nothing but volume of the cube. The volume of the cube is equal to a cube. That is simple mathematics you studied. Volume of the cube is a into a, that is a cube. From that we can get volume of the cube. As per this problem is considered, you have to remember one formula, that is nothing but relationship between the lattice parameter a or edge length of the cube and atomic radius, that is nothing but a is equal to 4r divided by root 2. That is for the FCC structure. When you come to BCC structure, it is a is equal to 4r divided by root 3, that you are going to derive in the next class. From that you can get two formula you have to remember. One is volume of the unit cell. Volume of the unit cell is nothing but volume of cube, that is nothing but a cube. As radius is given, we required some relationship between radius of the cube or unit cell, radius of the atom and unit cell edge length. So that is nothing but a is equal to 4r divided by root 2. Again, it is solved in Punn's textbook. You can refer. And this is one more problem on stresses and strain. Any doubt here in the previous problems? So there is no complex problem here. One formula you have to remember. One formula for FCC. FCC is a is equal to 4r divided by root 2. For BCC structure, it is 4r divided by root 3. That's all. Then here you given some. It is related to stress and strain. Again, you have to remember one formula. When you come to formula wise, one is engineering stress. So engineering stress is given by P divided by A naught. That you are discussing in mechanics of material also. That is engineering stress. One more is engineering strain. The engineering strain is nothing but delta L divided by the original length, or change in length divided by original length. That is one more formula. So when most of the problems, length of the specimens are given or components are given, we can find out what is the strain in the component. But some cases you may not have the length. In such cases, strain also can be expressed in terms of area of cross section or change in area. So strain is equal to, instead of saying Li minus L naught divided by L naught, we can say A naught minus AF divided by A naught. But in both the cases, you have to remember, when you express a strain in length, in terms of length, the denominator is always original length. When you expressing a strain in terms of area, again denominator is always the original cross section area. That part you have to remember. In general, we can express strain in terms of change in length, or we can express strain in terms of change in cross section area. Then we have so here it is a linear strain. So it is we have the relationship between linear strain and volumetric strain. So you can imagine imagine we have the rubber band. You are pulling the rubber band. Imagine we have the bigger rubber band of diameter, let it be around 5 mm rubber, let it be rubber rope. You are pulling it. When you are pulling the rubber rope, the length of the rubber is increases. There is a strain along the longitudinal direction. That is referred as a the longitudinal strain. At the same time, the diameter decreases. That is nothing but your transverse strain or lateral strain. We have, that means there are two strains. One is longitudinal strain, one more is lateral strain or strain along the length, that is one strain, and one more is strain along the diameter, that is a one more strain. Now once you know those two strain, we can find out volumetric strain. Volumetric strain is what is the change in volume of the material. Most of the time for the metal, change in volume remains, no, there is no change in volume. That's why epsilon V, but still we have the formula. Epsilon V is equal to, that is volumetric strain is equal to 2 epsilon D plus epsilon L. No need to derive this formula. If you remember this formula, that is sufficient. Epsilon V, that is nothing but volumetric strain, is equal to epsilon D, 2 epsilon D plus epsilon L. Volumetric strain is nothing but change in volume divided by original volume. The linear strain is delta L by L, you are familiar. Diameter strain, that is that is nothing but the change in diameter. The strain along the diameter direction is delta D divided by D. These are the formula. You are familiar with linear strain, delta L by L. In the similar way, we have volumetric strain, delta V by V, as well as we have diameter strain. That is strain along the diameter of diameter. Normally, you can refer to as epsilon X, epsilon Y, and epsilon Z. But now we are not started that type of notations. That's why you are referring as epsilon D and epsilon L. Normally it is referred as epsilon X as well as epsilon Y. If you know that, I think that is sufficient. And one more is true stress is equal to P divided by A naught. But these are the, don't think that those are very, very simple, but problems are very simple, but little bit tricky. As usual, as per you have to find out A naught. Original diameter is given. From that original diameter, you have to find out A naught. And load applied is given in terms of tons. I hope everything is fine. Audio and videos are this PPT is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, I think this is a common knowledge. The 1 ton is equal to 1000 kg, and 2 ton become 2000 kg. So most of the time, the force you are expressing in terms of Newton. We are familiar from the physics. We have studied physics in PUC level and even engineering level, even high school level. Force is always expressed in terms of Newton. The load is given in terms of kg. That you have to convert into Newton. That's simple conversion. It is 9.81. From that you can get the load. And the instantaneous die of the bar. That means if the diameter of the bar is 12.4 mm at this load. So once you say 12.4 mm at this load means when load applied on the component is 2 tons, when load applied is 2 ton, at that particular point or at that particular time, the diameter is 12.4 mm. We should be able to differentiate between the original diameter because 2 diameters are given. Original diameter as well as instantaneous diameter. In the problem statement, they may not refer as original diameter as well as instantaneous diameter. By reading the problem statement, you have to get the original. You have to identify what is original diameter and what is instantaneous diameter. If you come to instantaneous diameter, if the diameter of the bar is 12.4 mm at this load is nothing but 2 tons. Already component is subject to 2 ton. When component is subject to 2 ton, the diameter is 12.4 mm. That is nothing but your instantaneous diameter. So now we have instantaneous diameter is known. That's why we can find out from those data. We can find out A naught. At the same time, we can find out A. Now we have the original diameter, original area cross section is also available. Instantaneous cross section is also available. We can use those information. So now engineering stress, straightforward formula, P divided by A naught, no difficulties. But you have to find out strain also. But strain, most of the problem you are expressing in terms of change in length divided by original length. But here the change in length and original lengths are not given. Hence, area already we have. From the area we can find out the strain. The strain is equal to change in area divided by original cross section area. It will be the strain. Now you have to find out engineering stress, true stress and true strain. You have to find out. To find out true stress and true strain, we require lateral strain as well as diameter strain. So diameter we know, we can find out diameter strain. Delta D is known. What is delta D? D naught refer to original diameter. Here diameter strain is equal to delta D divided by D naught. The delta D is nothing but change in diameter. The change in diameter is, we know that 12.5 mm is the original diameter before application of load, and 12.4 mm is the change in diameter when load magnitude of the load is 2 ton. So we know the change in diameter and original diameter. From that we can find out delta D. I think same thing is found out. See here, delta D or diameter strain is change in diameter divided by original diameter. In the denominator always original diameter or original area, that you have to remember. From that we can get epsilon D. Then the volume of the specimen, whether you are imagine you are pulling the rubber band, the volume of the rubber band remains same because length increases, it is balanced by decrease in diameter. But there may be, if there is a, we are assuming that it is a homogeneous deformation, diameter volume remains same. Imagine you have the steel rod of circular cross section, you beat forged into rectangular cross section, but shape is changed, but volume remains same. We are not losing any materials. We are assuming that the initial volume of the specimen is equal to final volume. When initial volume and final volumes are same, here you can see the initial volume and final volumes are same, your delta V becomes 0. That means in this formula, we have formula epsilon V is equal to epsilon D into epsilon L. Epsilon V is known. That means the volumetric strain is 0. There is no change in volume, only change in shape and dimension taken place. Only change in diameter may take place, change in length may take place, the volume remains same. So then epsilon D is also already we have calculated. The only one unknown is epsilon L. That epsilon L we can calculate. That is nothing but linear strain. But true stress is equal to P divided by AI. That formula you are familiar. So P is applied load. Applied load at that particular point, that's the fracture point, divided by the original cross section area, not original, instantaneous cross section area, that already we found out. There is a, already we have used one formula. The strain also can be expressed in terms of, true strain also can be expressed in terms of A naught divided by AI. So this, I think we are going to derive this formula, but one formula we have, the true strain is equal to natural logarithm of Li divided by L naught. That formula you have to remember. If required, we will derive it. It is as per syllabus, it is not mentioned derivation, but they just mentioned true strain. But after test, we'll derive. If time permit, we will derive it in the next class. We'll see. True strain formula is not change in length divided by original length. There is a difference in formula for true strain and your engineering strain or conventional strain or nominal strain. The true strain is given by Ln, natural logarithm, not logarithm of 10, by Li divided by L0. Li refers to instantaneous length of the specimen and L0 refers to original length of the specimen. Now we can see this is the original before application of load, the length of the specimen is L0 and area of cross section is A0. Those are the original cross section area and original length. So already we have applied load at particular load, the length is Li and area is AI. That already you are think B1 and B2 batches already you have finished tensile test. That's why I started with tensile test itself. I think B2 batch we started tensile test. They are familiar. So we are load is applied continuously at that particular load. So you are getting the change in diameter. So from that we can get instantaneous area is known, instantaneous length is known. In our material testing laboratory with universal testing machine setup, we can get only change in length. We cannot get change in diameter or change in instantaneous cross section area. It is not possible. That's why most of the cases you will use only the engineering stresses and strain. One formula you have to remember: the true strain is equal to natural logarithm of Li by L0. That's one formula. Then most of the time there is no change in volume. The volume remains same. The volume remains same. The once volume remains same means V naught. That original volume is equal to final volume. So now volume is given by area of the cross section into length. A naught into L naught is equal to A by A into Li. The volume at that particular instant is A into Li. From that we will get Li by L naught. If you rearrange the equation, Li by L naught is equal to A naught divided by Ai. That means your true strain is equal to A naught divided by Ai. So we can express true strain in terms of length, change in length and the length, as well as we can express the true strain in terms of areas. Here also we express, I think. So we can express engineering strain in terms of length. At the same time, we can express engineering strain in terms of the cross section area also. There is one more problem. Again, original diameter is known. It is tensile tested to fracture and found to have engineering fracture strength. The fracture strength is nothing but the fracture load divided by original cross section area. Its cross sectional diameter at fracture is 107 millimeter. Determine ductility in terms of percentage of reduction, true stress. The original diameter is given. A cylindrical specimen of steel having an original diameter. Here there is no confusion, straightforward statement. They have given original diameter of 12.8 mm. So from that we can get A naught, we can get what the original diameter. Then if its cross sectional diameter at fracture is 107 mm, that is nothing but we can say AF, we can write the area of the cross section when it fractures, that is nothing but a instantaneous the diameter. The diameter is instantaneous diameter, or we can take it as DF, or corresponding area we can take it as AF. The original diameter is 12.8 mm. When it fractures at fracture point, its diameter is 10.7 mm. That means while you are mounting the specimen, you are applying the load, and once you applied, the specimen breaks. Once specimen breaks, you are measuring the final diameter of the diameter where exactly fracture takes place. That diameter is 107, the 10.7 mm. From that we can get diameter at fracture is DF is known. From that we can get area of the fracture. Area of the fracture we can use it only for getting the instantaneous stress, not fracture strength. Fracture stress is also given. Sigma F is 460 megapascal. You can see here the engineering fracture strength is 460 megapascal. This is very critical point. Even the same problem appeared in one few examination. Around 50% of the students they are doing mistake. The fracture strength is 460 megapascal. We are talking about the engineering fracture strength. That is nothing but fracture load divided by original cross section area, not the diameter at fracture. Let's say fracture strength is 460 megapascal that you are expressing in terms of Newton per mm square. The percentage area reduction is given. We can find out that will be 100. The percentage reduction is 30.07. That's one part. Now you require true stress at fracture. True stress at fracture is fracture load divided by area at fracture. The fracture is given. No, this is true stress. You are talking of the sigma dash that is referred to true stress. So this is the total different formula. We know that the sigma F is known. That is a fracture strength is known. It is equal to PF divided by A naught. This is engineering fracture strength. This is true fracture stress. This is engineering fracture strength is equal to PF divided by A naught. From that we can get PF. Whether you are calculating true stress or engineering stress, the load remains same, only denominator changes. Stress is equal to force divided by area. Only area is different for true stress and engineering stress. The load remains same. The load at fracture is now 59156. We have this load is 59156 divided by area at fracture is given. From that we can get true stress. That's the end of it. These all problems are there in Panish textbook. You can refer that. Those who don't have the Panish textbook, you better to purchase. Already first module, some information is communicated to you. You can refer through your group. I have communicated. You don't put anything in the group. Now we'll go for the innovative question that is mainly on steel. You are familiar with the steel material. That's a chosen case study question already you have discussed. That is cast iron. There are three types of cast iron. One is malleable cast iron, white cast iron, gray cast iron. From that, one will be asked or two will be asked. One is properties of the cast iron, application, and microstructure. What is the form of carbon? Whether it is a free form or combined form, like free form is or combined form. Combined form is cementite. The free form may be in the form of graphite. Again, graphite may be in the form of flakes, or it may be form of cylindrical shape or nodular shape, like a SG iron. It is in the nodular shape. In the case of flakes, it will be SG. That already you have discussed, and PPT also you have put it in the group, this Google Classroom. That is one part. And basic information about cast iron is there in our module 3. But it's strictly speaking, it's supposed to be in module 2, but in Panish textbook it is given in module 3. You can refer module 3. It is Panish textbook also. Basic information given, all information given in related to the cast iron. Some application part you can refer for the PPT. But case study question is mainly for the application. But if you know only the application, that is not sufficient. You should know the basic microstructure or grain structure or crystal grain structure along with property and its application. Once you know the microstructure, then we can write the properties. Once you know the property, you can get the application. And I think everyone is entered your USN number.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll start with case study, the innovative question. Again, in Panish textbook, some applications are given. The property of the different types of steels are given. Microstructure, everything is given. If initially you refer that Panish textbook, then you can go through the PPT. The PPT also I'll put it in Google Classroom so that you can refer PPT for the application. So okay, this audio is muted. Whenever there is a switch over, it will be muted. Okay, now it's fine. PPT is visible? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'll not spend too much of time. I'll spend only 10 to 15 minutes, around 15 minutes, maximum 15 minutes. There are in material science, there are some fundamentals. Then based on your grain structure or crystal structure, so property of the material will be changes. Depending upon the properties, you have to choose the material, that is the application part. Suppose we required like a crane with the steel wires. The steel wires are not subject to the compression load. It is mainly subject to tensile loading. So that means those steel wires should be highly ductile, not should be very hard. So to get ductility, if you suppose, imagine you have one cast iron, already you have finished the cast iron. If you are considering SG iron is nothing but spheroidal graphite iron. The graphite in the cylindrical shape or spherical shape. Because of the spherical shape of the graphite, so it has got good machinability because of the grain structure. The properties of the material is depending upon the grain structure or crystal. That's why we have spent almost 8 to 10 hours to explain what is grain, what is lattice, what is unit cell, etc. So now it is only the application part. I will not go in details. I will not read all statement. What are the application, what are the composition, etc. Those are having good remembering capacity. Then these topics. It is a part of second module. Your cast iron is also comes under second module. Your steel is also comes under second module. It's the application part. Some part is fundamental in the second module. The first module is completely fundamental. Second module is mainly 50%. 25% application, the remaining is fundamentals of material science. This is comes under application. Application means what are the different types of steel, the properties of the steel, microstructure, and corresponding application. The steel, if the major alloying element is only carbon, then it is referred as a carbon steel. That you have to remember. There may be alloy steel also. If there is only carbon, then it is referred as a carbon steel. Again, depending on the percentage of carbon, it may be low carbon steel, medium carbon steel, high carbon steel, or ultra high carbon steel. I will not read what is the percentage. At least try to remember some percentage. The percentage of those at least three steels: low carbon, medium carbon, high carbon steel. High carbon steel up to 1%. The low carbon steel, it is a mild steel. So what steel you are using in your the welding purpose or welding purpose or machining purpose? Most of your chairs, carts, etc. it are made of mild steel. The again percentage of carbon you have to remember. It's a malleable and ductile. The ductile is when it is subject to now we are talking about the ductility. It should have good ductility. It is having good ductility. Malleability. Malleability referred to when it is subject to compression loading. Ductility is referred to when it is subject to tensile load. So when if you conduct compression test, from that we can get the malleability. If you apply conduct tensile test, we can get ductility. And good machinability and formability. Formability is nothing but we can bend. Imagine we have mild steel sheets that can bend as per our requirement without any breaking. Those are the properties. So this is the microstructure. Right, for your test is considered, I will not ask for the microstructure, just properties, the application, and if you remember percentage of carbon. If you are able to write the microstructure also write, that is better. But still, microstructure we have to finish. You have to require to understand more and more. Now you are talking about the grain. So this dark region is one grain. The white region is one more grain. We can see there is many like a maps. So this is one grain, this is one more grain, this is one more grain, this is one more grain. Here only I'll express there are two phases. One is the white background, that is one phase. Dark background, that is one more phase. But in the white background, there are many grains of this. The phases means in your gaseous phase, liquid phase, like that. Within the solid, there are two phases. So one is white background, that is one phase, and the dark background, the one more phase. And if you consider mechanical property, all those things may be differs. That you are talking about the grain, or in the because metals are comes under polycrystalline, it has many crystal. This is one crystal, this is one more crystal, this is one more crystal. It is the actual photograph. So these are the different applications of steel. It is used for gears, screwdrivers, all those things you can see it in PPT anyhow uploading. The composition, it is all those things that it is stronger, good wear resistance. So this is one more microstructure. These are some more application of the mild steel. This is high carbon steel. High carbon steel is carbon content is more, but in general you remember the low carbon steel, when carbon content is less, it is more ductile. If you go on increasing the carbon content, it will become more and more harder. Higher in general state, generally you have to remember the low carbon steels are, if the percentage of carbon is less, it has
More ductile, more malleable.
more malleable, more ductile. If the percentage of carbon increases, then it will become harder and harder. Especially for cast iron, the percentage of carbon is around more than 2%. Hence, it is more harder. It is cast iron comes under harder material. It is more brittle also. So now this is the microstructure. Actual microstructure. No need to copy. You can no need to try to write this. After finishing your second module, you can write some schematic sketch for microstructure of different steel. For timing, you have to remember there are many grains. So you can see it's small. This is one grain. This is one more grain. This is one more grain. There are n number of grain. Hence, it is referred as a polycrystalline material. Metals are comes under polycrystalline material. Especially high carbon steels are used in the springs, high strength wires, hacksaw blade. I'll not go and read. It is available. But only thing is stainless steel. You are familiar with the stainless steel. The major alloying element is the chromium. So it is because of chromium, it is not corrode. That is one of the property of the stainless steel. So now enhanced formability. That means stainless. Imagine you have the stainless steel plate, the sheets that can be bent into any shape because of high good formability. Like we have a Mills plate. Originally it is flat. It is bent to required size and shape because of having good formability. There may be other now from externally we can see the steel. This is stainless steel. If you see from the naked eye, but if you see through the microscope, this is the microstructure of the steel. This is one grain. This is one more grain. We are talking about the grain, etc. Now that's why I spent a lot of time for explaining grain, polygrain, crystal, etc. This is one crystal. This is one more crystal. All those are separated by the boundary. That is nothing but a grain boundary. Again, there are different types of phases. So now phases, the one is ferritic, austenitic, martensitic, duplex, the precipitation hardened steel. There are different types of steels are there, different depending upon how these grains are arranged or phases are arranged. Dark, we can see one dark background, that is referred as one phase. The white places, white spaces, that is referred as one more phase, PHASE phase. The dark phase and white phase. So you are most of the time you are familiar with only liquid phase and solid phase or gaseous phase. But when you come to material science, other than liquid, solid, within the solid there are many phases of that. And best example is I am giving sandwich. The top layer is having different properties. Bottom layer is having different properties. In between there is a sandwich, some content that is having different property. That's why we have two phases. Top and bottom is one having one material. In between, there is a sandwich material that is having different properties. That's why it is referred to the phases. Depending on the phases, PHASES, we can classify one more category of classifying the stainless steel is ferritic, austenitic, martensitic, and duplex. Based on carbon content, low carbon, high carbon, and medium carbon. Ferritic steels, and there is a major alloying element is around chromium. So this is a microstructure of the ferritic steel. It is having different phase. Characteristics of the ferritic steel, and this you have a comparison to austenite steel, which are phase centered. But in general, remember. So whenever there is a iron, it can have different lattice structure or unit cell. For the ferritic steel, it is FCC structure. In why we are saying it is ferritic, it is having FCC structure. Then that is a face-centered cubic grain structure. Austenites, which have austenites having FCC structure, but ferritic steel have BCC structure. You have to remember one austenite, FCC, ferritic, BCC structure. That's why we studied crystal structure in this one, just to try to understand properties and application. But after studying the complete second module, we will come to know, understand each and every term in detail. This is only application part. The character of grain structure, again, everything you are expressing in terms of grain structure. There is a one iron, that is the alpha iron. It is nothing but a ferritic iron. Because of that, it has good resistance to stress, corrosion, cracking. Because of the stress, corrosion, then imagine there is a small crack or crack because of the stresses. Because of that, it may undergo corrosion. Cold worked and softened by annealing. There is a one more heat treatment process. And there is a one more cold working. Cold working is, don't think that you are keeping the metal in the freezer. So if the what work you are doing in forging, you are heating the material and you are forging it. Sometimes that also comes under cold working. If you heat the material below recrystallization temperature, is referred as cold working. And these are the different characteristics of the stainless steel. Application of the ferritic stainless steel, automotive application, kitchenware, industrial application. You can see these are the applications, especially this silencer, even kitchenwares. Austenitic steel. Austenite means you have to remember it is FCC structure. This is a microstructure. Time being, no need to write the microstructure for your test. It is only application part of steel. Only properties and application you have to write for innovative studies. There I may ask what are the different application of steel in automotive industries or aerospace industry. Then you have to remember those. So these are the most of these nuts bolts are made of austenitic steel. Automotive trim, cookware. What are the items you are using in kitchen? Martensitic steel, but in general you have to remember martensitic steel is having harder steel. It is like nothing but it is almost like your high carbon steel. It is martensite. Because of the high carbon content, it will form new form, that is Fe3C. We have Fe3C already we discussed. Because of cementite, so there is a more stronger. Martensitic steel is more stronger. This is the microstructure. Don't worry about the microstructure now, timing. And is having different, it is hardened by martensitic transformation, because martensite steels are stronger, because already we discovered the heat treatment. So we can make the steels more and more harder by one more transformation, that is referred as martensitic transformation. Imagine without changing the composition of the steel, we can make the steel softer, or we can make more ductile, or we can make it more harder also. So these are the different characteristics of the martensitic stainless steel, corrosion resistance. Then already this what I have shown, those things are downloaded from the net. But the basic information available in Panish textbook also. Whatever the content what I am projecting, that is based on it is available in the Panish textbook. One is common alloy steel. So one is low carbon steel, high carbon steel, and medium carbon steel. So one more is depending upon the percentage of carbon. There is a one more type of steel is there: hypo-eutectile steel and hyper-eutectile steel. Depending upon percentage of carbon. If it is less than 0.8, it is hypo. Otherwise, hypo-eutectile. So whatever these are the application of the steels. I'm not explaining all those applications of steel, machine springs, boiler, structural steel. Those are the application. The low carbon steel, again, some explanation is available. First, you read the Panish textbook. All information is available. Then you can refer the PPT also. Medium carbon steel, again, you have everything. All information is given. Properties are given. Advantages are given. Applications. As per your test is considered. Composition is study. The properties, advantages, and application, that is sufficient. Microstructure, no need to worry about timing. No need to worry about that. High carbon steel, again, composition you remember, properties, advantages, and disadvantage if it is required, and application. Then alloy steel, so you are adding alloying element to improve to get specific properties. The effect of alloying. So there are if you add different alloying element, there may be changes in the material. That's the effect of alloying element is also given. Types of alloy steel, we know structural steels. The mild steel is nothing but structural steel. It is used for cupboards, your building structure, your almirahs, etc. Then tool and die steel, it is mainly used for cutting tools, knives. You are familiar. Then tools used in lathe, drilling machine, milling machine, all are comes under cutting tool. The magnetic alloys, heat resisting steel, especially the component used in steam turbine, especially gas turbine, that should be having heat resistance. Structural steel, they are given all information available in the punished textbook. You can refer. Tool and die steels mainly used for the cutting tool, especially machining operation. Next time you are going to study one more manufacturing process too. So there you are going to study about cutting tools, drilling, milling, shaping, etc. All those cutting tools are made of tool steel. The magnetic steels, it is a high molybdenum steel. The molybdenum content is around 8.5 because it is material is magnetic. Then stainless steel already you are discussed. Austenitic steel already you are discussed. So that is the end of your different types of steel. As per your test is considered, properties, advantages and disadvantages, application, if you do, that is sufficient. And composition. No need to write the structure or microstructure. That may come in the next, after studying your complete second model, then you will come to know what is microstructure, etc. There are some schematic sketches, but timing, don't worry about the microstructure, only simple properties, applications, and some advantages, disadvantages, etc. If you have, you can write with respect to some application. That's for your innovative question. Now you have covered both innovative questions and case studies. And next class, you are going to do some more derivation on crystal structure, as well as some the stress strain. That will finishes your portion for the first test. Most probably tomorrow or you complete first module is there. Some topics are not covered. I'll put the question bank in Google Classroom. For first test, you refer the question bank. But whatever the portion I covered, that you study. For further reference, you can refer question bank, especially designed for your first test. That I'll put on Saturday, because after finishing your class only I can put, when I come to know that what are the portion covered till Saturday, that will be included for your first test. If some portion is not covered, that will not be included for your first test, it will be included for the second test. Your cast iron and steel comes under module 2. So okay, thanks, we'll meet on Saturday. So now we can leave the class. I am also leaving now.
Thank you, Chief.